Sheriff's Office released a manifesto left by the man who shot and killed 3 people in that racially motivated attack last year. The letter expressed his hate for all races except white and his desire to eliminate all African Americans. 19-year-old AJ Laguerre, 29-year-old Gerald Gallion, and 52-year-old Angela Carr were all killed at a Dollar General store in the Grand Park area. News4Jax reporter Janice Harris joining us live from that Dollar General that recently reopened after being closed since the mass shooting. Janice?
Today is a day of mixed emotions about the store opening behind me, the manifesto being released, and the attorneys for all of these families saying this is a very emotional, difficult time. It is hard for some people to walk inside this Dollar General because this same building is where 3 people were murdered during a hate crime. Did you feel uncomfortable going in today?
Yes, I did.
Did you think about?
Yeah, what happened? I told her keep an eye on the door, just in case we have a copycat.
Marvin Williams and a friend were going into the same store where gunmen killed AJ Laguerre Jr., Gerald Gallion, and Angela Carr. The families learned that the manifesto has been released by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Attorneys for the families requested the manifesto for their lawsuits.
So I had to call with the family yesterday to let them know that today was probably going to be a bad day. You know, no victim wants the killer to be discussed.
Local attorney John Phillips is representing 2 of Angela Carr's children and the estate in a lawsuit for the mass shooting.
The family's not surprised that this racist would use racist language.
The manifesto, in at least one way, suggests Jacksonville was not the only target of his hate crimes. The question reads, why drive so far? Couldn't you have just put down the N-words infesting Jacksonville?
Right. So, you know, there's a section, the last few pages are a question and answer, as if he's interviewing himself. And one of the questions he asks himself is, why not do this in Jacksonville? He did do it in Jacksonville. And so the question is, when he wrote this, where was he intending to go?
Dissecting the manifesto for the lawsuits could take time, but the families continue to grieve.
The family, have they said they're not going to watch television? Have they said they're going to just tune out? Like, how are they handling all of this?
The Carr family, bless their heart, is pretty resilient. They've gotten through September, October, November, December, January, 5 months of losing their matriarch.
The Dollar General reopened Friday, January 12th. Some people don't know that a shooting happened here, while others remember it vividly. Now that the manifesto is released, there are more mixed emotions, especially trauma. Do you think something like that being released helps or hurts?
In some ways it helped, in a lot of ways it hurt, because we still haven't gotten over the hurt.
A pain that may never go away. And Phillips also told me during that one-on-one conversation that it's important for people to understand that the person, the gunman, may have had mental illness, but also had an element of hate. And it's important for people to figure out how we can stop someone from being so hateful to kill others in the first place. Reporting live, Janice Harris, Channel 4, the local station.
Thank you, Janice. And much of the manifesto includes words we will not say on air. In it, however, the shooter talks about conspiracies he believed and his hate for minorities, politicians, and federal agents. News4Jax anchor Tarek Miner joining us now after speaking with a former FBI agent. Tarek, about what we can learn about preventing these attacks by looking at the shooter's words in this manifesto.
You know, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office released the manifesto some 5 months after the triple murder, and they said they did so in the spirit of transparency. Now, I spoke with a former FBI agent today who says the gunman lived in a fantasy fueled by hate and the idea that black people were solely responsible for all of his hardships. What would make a man want to murder as many people as possible solely because of the color of their skin? The clear answer is racism and hatred. But where it really starts to get cloudy, according to an FBI agent, is when you try to get into the mind of a madman.
Unfortunately, what we're talking about is truly madness. And madness is as inevitable as time and tide.
Former FBI agent Alex Silverstein is reacting to the manifesto left behind by the Dollar General mass murderer, who penned a 27-page declaration of death before killing 3 innocent black people and ultimately taking his own life. In the manifesto he left behind at his parents' Orange Park home, he calls for the murders of all black people, all politicians and federal agents, using the racist term to describe African Americans dozens of times. The shooter mentioning the Columbine killers and the Oklahoma City bomber, offering methods to extinguish the black race as a whole. The shooter also repeated the lie that the election was rigged and democracy has failed, expressing his hate for all minority groups, saying they are the symptoms of advanced societal decay. The shooter writes, "There is no life for young white people to live. You either throw away years for a bachelor's, only to find it's not worth the paper it's printed on."
One of the things that we've learned is that there's no one single profile for anyone who does these mass attacks. There are things that they share in common sometimes. There is some sort of grievance that they have against society, whether that grievance is based in rational thought or irrational thought, but there's some sort of grievance. There's some sort of fantasy that goes on about what this attack will achieve.
That fantasy for this lone wolf shooter is that others will follow in the murders of innocent people and politicians. A bigoted, twisted, and disgusting ideology that Silverstein says only the 21-year-old shooter can fully comprehend.
We can try to understand what was going through this person's mind, but also remember, we're looking at it through a lens of logic. As we sit here afterwards, we look back on the things that we saw or could have seen, but in fact, the person who's responsible for this is the person who carried out the attacks.
The madman ending his rant by giving a golden ticket to Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, the only black person he says he wouldn't kill. It is notable in the manifesto that the 21-year-old shooter makes no mention of Edward Waters University, which is the first place he attempted to start his killing rampage before being approached by security. He also made no mention at all about the Dollar General store. He also made disparaging remarks about the gay and lesbian community. Kent?
Yeah, thank you, Tarek. And on news4jax.com inside this story, we posted Sheriff T.K. Waters' full statement. In addition, you'll find links to stories that we've done on each of the victims and how their loved ones are remembering them. This is on our homepage.